At this point in the season, what do you do if you are Liverpool or a Liverpool fan or Jurgen Klopp or the players? How do you manage expectation? What is your expectation? Because at the start of the season, there are a lot of people who put, frankly, Liverpool outside of the top four, falling wholly away and not really being the side that we're currently watching in the Premier League, even though that side has also had some disappointing results of late. Well, really, what I wanted to say about that was it's inconsequential what you do at this point. Start of the season expectations now, whilst they probably were reasonable at the time, have changed. And Jurgen Klopp has, to some extent, been justified in some of his decisions and some of his pushback on the criticism that people had of him last year when we were talking on this channel about Liverpool 2.0, 3.0, whatever the evolution of Liverpool was going to be. We were talking about it happening last season and coming to fruition this season. And on top of that, I just think that this side is playing and enjoying its football again. And there's a massive difference between a side that clearly aren't enjoying what's going on the field and a side that are enjoying what's going on the field, are bought into it, are trying their best to play into these new positions, fit into this new system, give Jurgen some good headaches to have. And that is where I wanted to speak about today. Liverpool started with a lineup of Jarell Quansah at the back. In the midfield, Wataru Endo. Harvey Elliott also started in the midfield, which a lot of people last season would have been a bit more critical of. Not myself, but I do think he's definitely taken a step on this season as a footballer. And then a front line of Nunez, Gakpo and Salah. Interestingly, especially if you look at it, I mean, even Ryan Gravenberch in there, you're sort of like, okay, that's interesting. And Joe Gomez started at left back. If I'd have told you that any of these players, especially some of the weird signings, but some of the more long-term Liverpool prospects, some of the people who have been at Liverpool or have been in this difficult period, would have been playing in those positions this season, you would have told me the team's still doing badly. So when we then have to give them credit for playing against a Burnley team who, granted, are bottom half of the table, aren't playing the football we expected. They're playing the football we expected at the start of the season, but not to the success we expected or possibly forecast. And then on top of that, controlling the game, apart from in one period, you probably would have told me I was crazy. Anyway, if you think about it, this Liverpool side last season is playing a different brand of football to what we're seeing this season. This is a lot more adaptable. This is a lot more, weirdly, like there's a lot more roles and there's also a lot more of a different, there's a lot more of a difference in the positional sense they all have. I was looking at, after the game, the heat maps, but also the average positions and also some of the pass maps. And what you can see is, obviously Nunez and Salah right up front, basically kind of as a two, and then Cody Gakpo is like a join on third, almost similar to the way that we saw. No, it's not actually, but I mean, almost similar in terms of heat map to the way that we saw with old school, like 4-3-3. Not the Firmino, Mane, Salah, but old school 4-3-3, where there was like this striker that was playing alongside Miles, and then there was a bit of someone who was just throwing the crosses in. What I love about that is that it shows how adaptable, first of all, someone like Cody Gakpo is, how headstrong someone like Nunez is, and how basically everlasting, evergreen Mo Salah has been up until this point, right? And beyond this point, by the way. I think, I looked at my comments after the Arsenal game, and after an Arsenal game, after a big game, it's very easy to snipe. It's very easy to put criticism towards the team, because you can go, well, I didn't think Szoboszlai had a good game, or I didn't think Curtis Jones had a good game, or I thought Curtis Jones had a good game and Szoboszlai didn't, or I thought that we need to get rid. Some people have been talking about selling Nunez this season. Like, I mean, at the end of the season, I mean, come on, guys. Or the criticisms of club substitutes, which we will talk about in a second. Or, we've got some piling up injuries that will, in the long term, affect the side. Possibly so with the injuries, possibly so with the subs. But criticising players on an individual basis this season seems A, counterintuitive, and B, also slightly disingenuous in the way that you're evaluating the side. Like, what we've clearly found is that the team was wholeheartedly bought into this new system under Klopp, or this evolution of the system under Klopp. And to add on to that, when it was evolving last season, it was very difficult to implement with some of those pieces. Now we see it. This is a side that hunt people down, that hunt in packs in the same way as we've seen under Klopp before, but with some slight variations to the modern generation. If one player is kicking the ball against that player's legs, they get the rebound, another player is picking it up. That's what Endo's amazing for. That's why we've seen, like, the fact that we have Harvey Elliott and Endo in the midfield is testament to the fact we want to hunt the ball down and then drive with it. Because once Endo wins it back, Elliott gets it, Gravenberch gets it, or Cody Gakpo gets it, and just pushes forward. This was a game that Klopp read very, very well and controlled a dominant amount of the game with. And Liverpool were dominant from very very early on. From the first whistle, Burnley sat back. And, here's the thing is like, I actually think Erik Ten Hag read Liverpool very well. It's very easy to say that when you then sit 7 men behind the ball, not including the goalkeeper, and go, cool, a bank of 3 and a bank of 4, get through that. Normally it's bank of 4 and a bank of 3, but it's bank of 3 and a bank of 4, get through that. But what was interesting about it was Burnley did try and play some football. Burnley did try to engage in the game. Burnley kept Liverpool pretty much within touching distance for a majority of the game until Liverpool broke away in the end, which, maybe is a bit of a mental trick that Klopp tries to play on opposition managers. His game management and Klopp's game management is very much a gambler's, in the nicest sense of the word, a gambler's mentality when it comes to football. It's like, look, we're going to gamble something. Are you also going to risk that? We're going to put you on the back foot. Are you going to be happy on the back foot? We're going to be on the back foot. Are you going to try and put us on the back foot? Asking a lot of questions, putting a lot of pressure on the opposition. If you feel comfortable in that like grey area, this weird space that Klopp likes his teams to exist in, then you're going to love Nunez, Gakpo, Salah, even Elliott, Gravenberch. This whole side are going to be really fantastic, especially up front for you. Talk more about the evolution of that in a second. Cody Gakpo, I think he's been best on that left, driving in, similar to almost where he was at PSV, though weirdly, like, he's a bit wider and then comes inside a little bit more, but that's kind of like the drive that everyone was talking about when he first signed from Holland, right? So I love him in that position because, first of all, he picks up the ball, drives, and suddenly, his vision to pick out a teammate, which is what we also got him for, is fantastic. His hookup play is great. His ability to interchange with someone like a Nunez, who sometimes can be a little bit stilted, is really good. And obviously he's got a Dutch teammate on the inside of him there. That really helps. He's got Joe Gomez, who's an extremely supportive player. Doesn't have to be fantastic in attack, but is an extremely supportive player when it comes to being a wing player on his weaker foot, no less. But at the same time, that weaker foot kind of plays into Liverpool's advantage at the moment because they cut inside or they can go outside. He can cut back and then put in a really great cross. There's all these different aspects to the fact that Liverpool are basically playing towards their strengths at the moment. And at the end of last season, everyone was talking not about playing towards your strengths, but completely changing. Not talking about making minor tweaks to a system, but completely changing. Talking about, well, we need to get rid of this guy, wholesale, this guy needs to change. Now what we're talking about is, if we can tweak that aspect of this guy's game, if we can tweak this, do that. And that's where Darwin Nunez comes in, right? Hadn't scored since, the end of October. Despite having 14 goal contributions all season, you saw him at FCM earlier in the week being put up there and people saying like, this guy is committing crimes against football in the Premier League this season. I think first of all, he needs time, which I think he'll always get because he's still a relatively young prospect. I think he'll also get that because he's a striker, because it's probably one of the more difficult positions to play in the team to judge. And also, if the team are creating goals, which frustratingly they didn't against United and did against Arsenal, but didn't quite put one of them away, didn't have a penalty, could have created even more goals, even more finished chances, then maybe he escapes some of this criticism. And it's sort of like, hey, like, what's this facilitator role? What's this role of him drawing some of the attention away? But instead, the narrative is he isn't scoring goals. Let's step in on that. Let's try and make it difficult for him in that sense. And I find that quite frustrating sometimes. It's quite two-dimensional to think of any striker in the modern game as just someone who puts the ball in the back of the net. But also because he is so famous for it, because when he does it like he did against Burnley. People want to try and find a way to hang him up. And I think they want to find a way to do that with a lot of players this season. That's why, weirdly, I thought that Szoboszlai, the way people were evaluating him was weird. Like, they weren't really talking about the game he was playing. They were talking about the kind of player he was. Yeah, why don't you do the same then with Darwin Nunez? Or the same with maybe even Endo. It's not, people are trying to fit him into this 6 when actually there's so many different roles that he plays. When you look at his heat map, when you look at what he is doing for Elliott and Gravenberch or Curtis Jones and Szoboszlai or whoever it is, you're looking at a player who's a real facilitator, who is willing to be self-sacrificial in order for everyone else to do well, but at the same time does have a couple of blind spots. And I want to talk about some of these blind spots. Liverpool 1-0 up for ages. The other goal, I wasn't quite sure why it was ruled out, Paul Tierney, but I guess there was a foul in there that was blown up for, but it was a really, again, another great aspect of Cody Gakpo's game is this amazing finish that he has. When he can get himself just a minute amount of space, he finishes, and it's like an arrow into the back of the net. Like his shot looks faster than anything I've seen on any Liverpool player. It goes faster than I think Salah shoots it. It goes faster than I think Nunez shoots it, and it is a true. It's a very true flight to the ball. Put it that way. But when he scored that goal, I was like, okay, well, that seems pretty good. Like there was a foul in there, maybe. Like maybe there's something. It was chalked off. Fine, okay. Liverpool can go again. They just have wave after wave after wave of attack. Harvey Elliott gets his goal taken out. Okay, right, just keep going. But again, it's still 1-0. Liverpool are still very much. I mean, we weren't being put on the chopping block at all. There wasn't anyone who was like, hey, we're going to put Liverpool to the sword here. It was just very much bang, bang, bang. Like Liverpool just banging at the door the whole time. It wasn't like Burnley were really ever getting that many great looks at the other end. And especially if you're a Liverpool fan, you know what a great look looks like against this team. Like a team counter-attacking is fine. Like you've got a Virgil van Dijk back there. We didn't even have a Konate today to like put out a lot of the fires. We had a very calm centre-back pairing of Quansah and Virgil van Dijk just easing their way through players and off the ball a number of times. Like the number of times I think Van Dijk put himself between the ball and the player, just, oh, there I go, and I'm away. The number of times that Quansah was there covering space, didn't really need to do all that much, but this is a good game for that kind of thing, right? But then there was that little period where Liverpool kept playing themselves into danger. It was like between 60 and 70 minutes roughly. They just kept trying to give the ball to Burnley, kept trying to give it away. Endo did it a couple of times. There was a couple of other players who were frustrating me within there, and I thought, we've played our way so well into controlling this game. We were 70-30 on possession. We were something like 1.5 at that point on XG, not that massively bought into XG, but you get my point. And it was just like, hey, this game should be far and away ahead of Burnley at this point, but it isn't. It's still very much within touching distance. And it's so weird because the stats, some people read it and go, well, you know, they only just controlled. Liverpool were dominant throughout that first half. Like there were Burnley players who were making mistakes all over the place. Again, a sign of dominance. There were people who were trying to play the ball. Liverpool just weren't letting them play the ball where they wanted it. And then when they were counter-attacking it, Liverpool were just forcing them out wide or going, okay, right, like just get in these positions and we'll be fine. There was a calmness to this team that I really enjoyed. Even when Endo was caught out of possession, Virgil van Dijk and Quansah are still back there just going, okay, just ease off a little bit. Alisson always gives that back line an element of calm that I think is fantastic. And, you know, I love Keller as a goalkeeper, but he's not Alisson. No one in the world is Alisson. It's that assuredness that if someone even takes a great shot, he's still got a solid pair of hands that he'll just put behind it. And those two hands just go up and bang, catch the ball out of the air and it's down, or he's down and he's got it. Like, there is such a great level to that. Now, the other aspect here is they actually played three centre-backs technically in Joe Gomez, Virgil van Dijk and Jarell Quansah, right? And then obviously Trent can slot into midfield because there wasn't all that much threat on the counter-attack. But weirdly, like, you know, then you see Joe Gomez going down the field and you think, okay, there's something going on there. He's just pushing on. And his heat map is very much on the halfway line. Like it's literally either side of the halfway line. It's like he's either receiving or tackling. Like he's always an option. But what undermined Liverpool's formation today was when we made the subs, when we brought on what I think are very solid characters, what are probably people who are really good at any game states. You've got Curtis Jones types and lots of good, solid players that I think have become really solid players for Liverpool coming on. What I would say about that is the game state suddenly changed and Burnley came into this period of us just giving the ball away. The possession that we wanted to have wasn't there. We just kept giving it away. We couldn't get into the right shape. We couldn't give people the right options. And the options that were there had suddenly disappeared. And Burnley probably knew, and I think, you know, credit to Vincent Kompany here, when Klopp makes his first set of subs, and we've spoken about this a lot on this channel, that's a good time to get at them. They're going to try and change the game state, so we'll do the same at that point. When you change, we'll change. When we change something, you'll change something, we'll change back. We'll be ready for that. He probably knew, based on the starting lineup, what Klopp was going to try and do at about 60 minutes, how he was going to try to change it. So I was pretty interested in that because it was the first time this season, really, that I've seen a manager successfully try to achieve that against Jurgen and the team, where it's like Liverpool do this little set change of players where it's like, cool, they're off, they're on, this movement's changing, you're not going to see us in the same positions anymore, you're going to have to work us out again at 60 minutes when you're slightly more tired, when you're already in a rhythm, all these kind of things. So I appreciated that from Vincent Kompany. Hope no one else was observing it. Hope no one else, even if they were observing it, which they probably did already know, can actually get to grips with Liverpool in all these game states. It's not always going to work if you're going to counter what Liverpool are trying to do because you don't know what Liverpool are going to try and do. They might change things. Klopp's going to try and second guess what you're going to try and do. So I did enjoy that. And I also enjoyed the fact that when Liverpool did get their second goal, which, you know, was again, kind of a classic Liverpool wide guy goal. It's Jota coming on. I've missed him. We've missed him. We've spoken about this a lot on this channel. I think Liverpool overall this season have missed just one extra striker in there, or one extra striker of the ball in there, to be able to put the opposition on the back foot, to be able to make them feel uncomfortable, to be able to be a Diogo Jota. Someone who comes on, is very solid, does a crazy little celebration or whatever that was, and then just decides, like, right, here we go. Like, I'm now going to be solid in defence. I'm now going to be that solid player that everyone asked me to be, that they want me to be. We missed him a lot, and I think he goes underappreciated in this team. In fact, there are loads of underappreciated players, and all down that left side when we finish the game, I think there are a lot of underappreciated players. Joe Gomez, again, deserves another really big shout-out. Joe Gomez, you'd be forgiven for thinking with Joe, when you lost your centre-back position almost permanently to Konate, Matip, whoever else it would have been, and we were struggling when you had a terrible injury, and I mean, it was one of the most awful career-ending potential injuries you could have. He came back in the team, he got that new contract, the chat between Klopp and Gomez, what it would have been, the speculation around him, everyone being quite unfair on him, probably damning him. I saw that game in Naples, like I always say, I saw some really difficult games for him. He's played his way through that. He's become mentally, and I don't even want to talk about mentality monsters or any of that kind of thing, like mentally he deserves his own individual award. Because getting to this point, for someone like Gomez, is amazing. And I'm not even really mentioned like a Trent in this game. It's kind of amazing when you can basically just sort of go, oh yeah, and Trent. Like, how mad is that? But one of our best players who basically go, yeah, and he played as well. It's not that he's not good, it's just the emphasis in the team today was very much up front, and they could just sort of launch balls forward. If you have a supporting player that can just kind of sit there, and I'm not saying he did nothing, but I'm saying if he can just kind of sit there and not have to be one of the main fulcrums all the time, it's great for you. You want that they take the pressure off those A-star, you know, like the Galactico level players. That's Trent. So yeah, I'd love to know what you guys think. I'd love to know your ratings. I'd love to know what you thought of the performance overall. I was really impressed. I think Liverpool are tactically controlling games like Burnley, but we're expected to tactically control games like Burnley. Games like Newcastle are going to be very hard. Eddie Howe loves to play with big teams. It's going to be easy to get them up for that. They might get exhausted very quick. They've got a very thin squad right now. But we've got a lot of injuries as well. And, you know, for that reason, sometimes I think, you know, it's well and good Newcastle talking about injuries. You had some summers now. You've had some time to invest. You are one of the richest clubs, if not the richest club in the world. Put some resource into it, bro. It's hard. Yeah, it's hard to build a football club. I think a lot of people just thought it would just be a smooth ride, and it hasn't been. Newcastle are a fantastic team, though. And that's kind of where my frustration comes with them. And looking forward to them, like, they are coming back to be like, there are times when you look at me like, cool, like, Gordon, he's fantastic. You know, I love watching Callum Wilson down the middle. Bruno Guimaraes is still amazing. He's got two supporting acts who are very much piano carriers for him at times. And I think that back line is still very, very solid. They'll frustrate Liverpool a lot. Resource-wise, I feel like Eddie Howe is still slightly under-resourced. And that's kind of what I'm saying here. It's not really a knock at Eddie. It's more of a knock at the club hierarchy. You haven't really resourced him in the way that you want to be resourced at the start of the season. Again, they've got some fantastic players. They've just had a lot of injuries. And those injuries come from A, a very intense season last season, B, the way that Eddie Howe's choosing to play at the moment, and C, some of the ways that you think, well, of course that's going to happen. Like, these players are only just getting into this cycle of being the very tip-top level of players. Like, before that, they had a couple of years of Steve Bruce. Before that, they had a couple of years of whatever other club they were at. It's not going to be easy to ease your way into those kind of things, especially from the level they were buying to and going up to. So yeah, I hate Newcastle games because obviously they're very close rivals and they've got some classics in them. And also, I've just not got a soft spot for the Eddie Howe type. I don't know what it is. Some of his press conferences I'm not a massive fan of. I don't like some of the things he's said in the past. Anyway, I like him. I'm sure I'd get on with him if I met him, but some of the stuff I'm just like, oof. You're not Jurgen, are you? But who is? It's a very exciting game. It's going to be a big one. I think Newcastle are going to make it extremely difficult for Liverpool. And I think they're going to see that as probably marked on their calendar, a bit of a comeback game. So yeah, let me know, guys, in the comments below what you think is going to happen. It's going to be interesting to see how Liverpool play Newcastle. And I will chat to you guys again in a little while. Much love. Oh, by the way, man of the match. Who are we calling for this one? If I was to give it to a defender, you get annoyed. So I'm going to go Diogo Jota just purely because he came back and he's incredible. Love that guy. He's become, again, I know it's easy to say when your team is going for something because last season it was like, oh, is Jota done? Is Salah? Who's done here? Who's done there? this season, it's so easy to see that people have bought into roles, the clear communication of what is expecting them, all these kind of things. Really loving it, really loving where the team is at. And you could kind of see it last season, even at their worst moments, that this team, when they come to their best, we're going to have a role like this. But these aren't the games we need to be banking on winning. It's the bigger ones. That was obviously a big game, with all due respect to Burnley, but you get my point here. There's like a, come on. Do you know what I mean? And if you want to go to the title, you've got to win games like this. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate the support on the channel. Thinking of maybe doing a Patreon in the new year. There's two things I'm going to do which may sort of speak financially to you guys. A, Patreon. B, I'm going to cut this hair very soon, partially because I watched myself on that Mark Goldbridge video and went, it's very long. But also, I've had a bit of time to sit down over Christmas, research it with my wife. I think we're going to give it to, we're going to try and donate as much money as possible for shaving it off. My wife's going to do it. And, you know, that is one aspect of it. But the other aspect is you can then donate long hair to people who are suffering. A lot of people instantly think of cancer, and obviously that is something that's very close to my heart. So I'm thinking of donating some of the money to either blood cancer as a research topic, because that is something which is very important to me personally. I could also donate it to a broad cancer charity, which let me know if anyone knows of any really great charities out there. And secondly, we're going to give the hair as a wig to someone, because of course people who are touched by cancer or other illnesses where people lose their hair, I think can be incredibly difficult for some people. Not everyone, but obviously, you know, people go through different traumas in different ways. But I still think, why do I get emotional when I talk about this? I still think there's enough hair there, guys, to give a wig. And yeah, so shake that tin. Happy Christmas or holidays or whatever it is you celebrate at this time of year. And if you're not celebrating anything, congratulations. You've managed to do the one thing that is amazing. Walk through the streets with no other morons there. I will be seeing you guys between now and New Year. Obviously, I'll be seeing you in 2024. I've really appreciated all of the support you've given to the channel in this time. I'll be back doing more videos. There is Laurence McKenna Liverpool channel down below that is going to be launching in 2024. But yeah, how was your Christmas? No, seriously. There's like a little Laurence McKenna Instagram group going on as well. It's just on my Instagram. It's called Of The Cast. I was thinking of doing a Discord. Don't know if that works on Patreon. Let me know how you guys like it below. Whose model do you like? I know James does an amazing one, but I don't want to just copy people. I kind of, you know, he's like a friend, but also a bit of someone I really look up to. So yeah, let me know what you guys think and what kind of thing you want from someone if you are going to donate to a Patreon, because obviously it means quality content, but it sometimes also just means supporting someone you might like or whatever it is. Do you want a tiered thing, or do you just want a one-time sort of, you know, that's the price, this is what we pay for it? Or is it like, hey, I'll give you a little bit of this, do you know? Or would you not do Patreon at all, and would you just like share it to your friends and help us make much more ad rev in the long run? Anyway, it's not so much me going, I want some money. It's me more going, I need to make a little bit more to maintain an upward trajectory for the channel, to keep it good and keep it growing and make it amazing, and also fulfill your expectations. Anyway, speak to you guys in a while. Much love. Bye.